you?
This is downtown Tucson. It's about 15, 20 minutes. I mean, everything for me is pretty close. Well, people in Tucson are funny. They drive a little bit. They,
Tell him to watch his ears.
What? I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you, Rob. What'd you say?
Tell him to watch his ears.
Watch Sears?
Watch his ears, they've got tone on.
Okay, he said, watch your ears, you have tone on. You'll hear me, just before I say the support for Divorce TV provided by, then I'm going to go into my introduction a little bit, and then I'll put you on the screen, John.
About
30 seconds.
Well, that's a relief.
We're counting down from 10 now. 9, 8. Divorce Television with Wally Marcus. Marital Mediation with my special guest attorney John A. Fisk on the telephone. Support for Divorce TV provided in part by the Center for Divorce Mediation, 520-577-1202. Welcome to Divorce TV. I'm your host, Wally Marcus. I've been a divorce mediator for over 25 years, and our topic today is marital mediation. And my special guest is John Fisk. He's going to be on the telephone. I've known John for many, many years. He's a very special person, one of the outstanding mediators in the country, actually. And if you want more information about our show, you'll see at the bottom of your screen our website and our name, and please go there to ask us questions or get further information about our program and who our future guests are going to be. John, I've got you on the screen now, and it's really great talking to you. I just said you've been an inspiration to me for years, and to many other people, and it's really very proud to have you on the show talking about marital mediation, which you probably do more about than anybody else in the country.
I do a lot of it.
You sure do. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, John, what you do?
Sure. I've been a lawyer since 1961 and decided in 1979 to become a family mediator. All my friends thought I was becoming a meditator because in 1979 nobody knew what mediation was. But in the last 25 years, the concept of using mediation to help people and families who are having disagreements has really taken hold. So it's possible now for a lawyer in Norwalk, Connecticut to move to Tucson and become a mediator, and the next thing you know, he's on television talking about it. We've come a long way.
We sure have, John, and as I said, you're an inspiration to all of us on it. If you're interested in getting more information about John Fisk and marital mediation, at the bottom of your screen you'll see his website and his telephone number, and John, I'm sure, will be happy to answer your emails or your phone calls about that.
It's my favorite subject.
John, could you tell us a little bit more about what marital mediation is?
Sure. It's basically a process to allow people who are already married to enter into post-marital agreements. People who are watching your show who are interested in how to deal with disputes in their marriage probably know about premarital agreements. They may know that if you want to get divorced, you can enter into a divorce agreement. But what if you're already married and you don't want to get divorced and you want to have one of these agreements that you could have done before you were married and you didn't? What you could call it a mid-course correction. So the spouses sit down and say, we want to change the terms of our marriage. We don't like the fact, for example, that the retirement plan is totally in the husband's name, or we don't like the fact that we're arguing over how to spend money, and we have enough money so we can divide it, and the husband has his money and the wife has hers. We each can do whatever we want with it, and we'll never have to argue about money again. Those are a couple of examples of the kinds of things that couples who are already married can do if they use marital mediation to help them eliminate what might be a question or a problem during their marriage.
John, how successful have you found these cases that you've handled over the years in fine-tuning the marriages?
Some of them are total failures, but fortunately those are the minority. In many cases, couples are really grateful for the chance to do something very cognitive and specific and positive and legally binding in their marriage. Couples, for example, who've had a lot of therapy and say, you know, we're sick of talking about why we behave the way our grandparents did. We want to change our relationship in some kind of cognitive way. For example, husband and wife come to me. The husband was a very successful businessman, but in 2000, his .com company went belly up, and he's been out of a job for 4 years. But he loves to spend money, so he's continuing to run up debts. The wife is the only source of income for the family, and she's a teacher. And she's worried that they're going to lose their house because his creditors are going to attach the house. And they've talked about this in therapy. She is beside herself. They still love each other. She said to me one day, no matter what happens, I know that I'm better off with him than I am without him. So they wanted to stay married, but they were frightfully worried. So I suggested she take the house and that he take the house, which was jointly owned, and transfer it to her sole name. She was perfectly willing to say, if we ever sell the house, he gets half. But for the time being, let's put the house in her sole name. And he did. So now, if he has creditors, she doesn't have to worry about losing the house. And that has been a huge help to their marriage. And they've, in fact, went on national public radio on Marketplace 2 years ago to talk about what marital mediation did to help them stay married, and this is exactly what they did. So if any of you people watching happen to have listened to National Public Radio Marketplace, they may have heard, hey, I've heard that story before. So that's an example.
Very good, John. I appreciate the example. Can you give us a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of how it actually, the marital mediation works?
Sure. There are really two things that the couple they come in and they sit down and they meet with me, and then they write up an agreement. In fact, if people want to learn more nuts and bolts, on the website, they'll find a description on the useful documents page called Marital Mediation. And I love lists of things. What are things we have to talk about? Well, there's a list on there of things that people who are married, who want to stay married, can talk about. How do we divide responsibility for taking care of the children, or preparing meals, or where do we spend our vacations, or how do we handle money? Those are all fair game for a kind of a marital agreement. So the couple talks about that, and then I write up a contract. And you could divide those contracts into basically two categories. One is, let's just decide what would happen if we got divorced. Part of the problem in our marriage is everyone in our neighborhood's getting divorced, and there have all been horrible divorces. We don't want that to happen to us. Is there any way we can avoid that? Sure. Enter into an agreement right now that defines all the terms of your divorce, but don't file it in court. One couple said, we'll put it in the bureau drawer under the socks. And they did, and they stayed married because that agreement removed all the doubt. What would happen if we ever got divorced? Would I lose my house? Would I have to pay alimony forever? What would happen to my pension? All those questions are answered by this document, which the couple voluntarily and confidentially writes with the help of a mediator. The great thing about mediation is that the people stay in charge. They can do whatever they want. And this is just one little corner of the mediation world where the couple says, we want to change the terms of their marriage. Now, I can give you one further example. That's the category of the couple that says, we want to define what happens if we get divorced. Some couples go beyond that and say, we not only want to say what happens if we get divorced, we want to change the terms of our marriage right now. We don't like the way we're handling money right now, and we think if we change it, there's much less likelihood of getting divorced. And he says, okay, let's separate all our money. She says, fine. They divide, let's say they have a total of $1 million. They each take $500,000. That's their money. And they can each do with it whatever they want. If the wife's $500,000 grows, then she gets to keep that. And